Hey, this is Blondeguygamer, and welcome to a little Black Sheep review that I'm sure none of you saw coming given what just came out recently as of this video. Because yeah, Metroid Prime 4 is finally upon us, and it only took 18 years since Metroid Prime 3. Sorry, just partially turning into dust there. Although technically there was a Metroid Prime game after 3 for the 3DS. 9 years ago. Oh, that's still quite a while ago. And that's Metroid Prime Federation Force, a game that not many Metroid fans wanted or played. And if you're wondering why that is, it's because the last Metroid game that came out at the time, Other M...
The baby.
Stop it! Yeah, for reasons that you probably know or remember, Metroid Other M is what I consider the actual mainline Black Sheep of the series. Though that's not what we're here to talk about. But I do want to get to this as a full Black Sheep game review someday. As for Federation Force, since it's a spin-off in the Prime series of Metroid, I figured it was a better fit as a little Black Sheep game review. And because there's not nearly as much to talk about here than in Other M. But I guess you could say it's still a prime candidate for a Black Sheep in the series. Yeah, let's just reiterate why that is. One of the biggest contributing factors to that is definitely the timing of when this came out. Because as I was trying to say before, the last Metroid game before this was Metroid Other M. An entry that didn't exactly put fans in a great mood, primarily for its narrative and portrayal of series main character Samus Aran. So when Federation Force got announced at E3 in 2015, fans, still better from Other M and the fact that this is the next Metroid game to get announced 5 years after that, didn't take too kindly to it. Because what was shown was more of a cooperative shooter than what people would expect from a Metroid game or even a Prime entry. The backlash was pretty much instantaneous, as back when you could see the like and dislike ratios publicly on YouTube videos, it was made very clear how much that announcement video was disliked. So by the time it did get released in 2016, for the Metroid series' 30th anniversary no less, not many were keen to play this to say the least. Even I didn't get the game right away, mostly because while I was at least willing to give it a shot, there was hardly anyone else in my friend group that also wanted to play it. Only one role, formerly Well and Real 007 for you old viewers, was willing to. And by the time we agreed to play it together, it had been about a year or so after, and I actually couldn't find a copy in any of the stores in my area, so I had to order it online, which was already a sign of how quickly everyone moved past this game. But we did play it together, and it was okay. A little anticlimactic, I know, but we've played worse. But that didn't stop me from wanting to do a video on it sometime. What did is that I don't have the ability to capture off of a 3DS, but One World does. So after we played it again for his stream last year before the 3DS online service went down, I asked if I could use his stream footage for this video and he agreed. So you can thank him for providing the footage. And saving the hassle and money of getting a 3DS capture setup, though I probably still should at some point. Anyway, let's talk about the Metroid Prime games and how I got to Federation Force. Back in 2002 on the GameCube, the first Metroid Prime was released, and despite the initial worries about this being in first person and made by an American developer, Retro Studios, as their debut game no less, Metroid Prime got critical and commercial success for pulling off an immersive first person take on the classic Metroid games, which led to two sequels. Metroid Prime 2 Echoes on the GameCube in 2004, 6 days after Halo 2 funnily enough, and Metroid Prime 3 Corruption in 2007 for the Wii. After that trilogy, Retro Studios would go on to make the Donkey Kong Country Returns games, though that didn't stop Metroid Prime series producer Kensuke Tanaba from wanting another game after Prime 3, but be more of a spin-off, eventually leading to one for the 3DS. And it's not like we haven't had handheld Metroid Prime spin-offs before. On the DS, there was Metroid Prime Pinball by Fuse Games in 2005, which was, well, a pinball version of the first Metroid Prime. It was actually kind of fun as silly as it sounds. And Metroid Prime Hunters by Nintendo Software Technology in 2006, an entry that takes place between Prime 1 and 2. It was a technically impressive DS game, and it's where our Federation heading boy Silex originated, though I do have a few gripes with the single-player campaign. But still an alright handheld entry in its own right, and the competitive multiplayer aspect was fun, even if it wasn't the first Metroid game to do so, as 2 was the first to have that. However, Federation Force is a cooperative multiplayer game, save for one game mode exception, but it is mainly co-op. And like Pinball and Hunters, Federation Force wasn't developed by Retro Studios, though they did provide the designs for the mechs you play as. This was from a Vancouver game studio that is primarily known for its games they have made for Nintendo, like the Mario Strikers games, Punch-Out for the Wii, and more importantly as the game made before Federation Force, Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon for the 3DS, which helped Next Level Games familiarize themselves with the system's hardware to make Federation Force a 3DS title instead of a DSi game as it was originally considered for. And while I would say Next Level Games did a good job with what they had to work with, it didn't really help with the criticisms of Federation Force upon arrival. But what do you get if you're willing to look past those and actually give this game a shot? Well, the game takes place after Metroid Prime 3, where you play as an elite marine squad of the Galactic Federation called the Federation Force, who control large mechs as a part of Operation Golem to combat the Space Pirates, the main stable antagonistic foes of the Metroid series. Now, the Galactic Federation was always a thing in Metroid, usually as the ones that hire Samus to take care of things, and is pretty much your only client that we see in the games despite being a freelance bounty hunter. However, they were more of a background element that didn't really get directly involved with the game plots until Metroid Fusion and Other M, and even then, those were more of a shady part of the Federation apparently. While in the Prime games, they are the standard goody two-shoes future space marine government, with those in particular first appearing in Metroid Prime 2, though spoilers, they didn't last long on either, but in Prime 3 they were more involved throughout that game, though not too overbearing. However, since you are the Federation Force in this game the entire time, you're not going to have the typical Metroid Prime experience if it wasn't already apparent. And not just because it's a co-op-centric shooter. No one plays as Samus for one thing. The closest you can get is the Bounty Hunter mech paint job if you use a Samus amiibo with an NCF reader or new 3DS. So naturally one will use that when we played. Though Samus is still in the game as a secondary character that the Federation of course hires to help investigate what the Space Pirates are up to, and even shows up to give support sometimes. But because this is the only Metroid game where you don't play as her, it's enough for some people to not count this as a Metroid game period. And when you get into the gameplay of this, the lack of other Metroid staples only further cement that argument. Because the only thing that really resembles the Metroid Prime games is the first-person HUD and the combat, as by default it uses a similar control scheme from the GameCube Metroid Primes with its shooting, locking on, strafing, and jumping from those. And even though it is on the 3DS, you don't aim with the touchscreen and stylus like you could in Metroid Prime Hunters, but can still free aim with the 3DS gyro while pressing R, and you can do that while locking on like in Metroid Prime 3. It actually does work okay enough as a look option and to make leading shots while locked on. But if you want a more dual-stick control scheme, you can use a Circle Pad Pro or a new 3DS model if you have those. And while OneWorld did play this on a new 3DS, he said he personally wasn't a fan of its C-stick nub for aiming, so he stuck with the gyro aiming. And since I only have a regular 3DS with no Circle Pad Pro, we were fine with just that. There's also some tweaks like the charge beam having multiple levels of charge the longer you hold the fire button, so it is pretty satisfying to pull off a full charge blast on something, and being able to hover for short periods during the brief bits of platforming. You also have the series staple missiles and other types of weapons for extra firepower, but those require what this game calls aux ammo. They are actually part of item loadouts you make before missions, with a weight limit on how much you can take with you, so you do need to consider what to bring as more powerful ones take up more space. Plus, it's shared among the players, so you'll need to coordinate who gets what or just go yoink and take what you want right away. And it's not just weapons, as there are other things like repair modules, which is the only item that heals you and your teammates. Though thankfully you can find more aux ammo pickups from boxes during levels, so you won't have to worry about running out of them too much. Although aux item selections are predetermined depending on the mission, so you don't have complete freedom there. You do have more customizable options for your mech itself, as you can change the mech paint jobs once you unlock them, chips called mods that you can equip up to 3 of them that give you various upgrades, which you get as rewards after completing missions that you take turns claiming with whoever had the highest score getting first dibs, and a bit of competitiveness to the game. You can also find mods throughout the levels themselves, which is the closest thing this has to finding item upgrades like in other Metroid games. Oh, and mod chips actually have a chance of breaking when you get downed or even quit a mission, so equipping your most powerful mods does have that risk factor. But you do get a good amount of these throughout the game, so it's not a huge deal to lose them unless it was a really good one that you only had one of. And there are actually a couple of unbreakable mods, though one of them can only be used if you are by yourself. Because yes, you can play this game in single player if you really want to, or have no choice, but it's very clearly intended for co-op, as that aforementioned mod chip gives you stronger attack and defense to try and better balance things for just one player. But you won't have anyone to revive you if you get down, and you have to do everything yourself, so it's not ideal there. There's also AI combat drones you can select for a little additional help, which are available per missing player. For example, you can equip 3 of them if you're by yourself, or if it's 2 of you like with OneRoll and I, you can have 1 each. Now during our initial playthrough and for most of the stream one, it was just the 2 of us. But at one point we did get a 3rd person for a couple of missions, so shouts to the few of you who actually did play this online to the bitter end. And even if you don't get a full 4 people, having 2 of you is still enough, as you can coordinate and support each other pretty effectively. And if you aren't on call like we were, you can still communicate with your teammates with voice lines you can select and play before and during missions, which you can change the gender, voice, and pitch of. It's not using the mic like in Hunters, for better or worse, but it is a good way to do it without that, and you can mute them if they get on your nerves. Though ironically, one of the more fun things we did have while playing this was spamming those voice clips, particularly the "good game" one.
Good game.
Good game.
Good game.
Good game.
Enjoy.
Now, besides that, is this game actually fun? Well, I'd say it can be mildly fun as a co-op shooter, maybe not nearly as fun as something like Left 4 Dead, but still a novelty for the 3DS at least. There are 22 missions across 3 planets in this game with decent objective variety. Clearing missions will get you medals, and if you get a high enough score with the level bonus objective and complete it within a certain time, you can earn up to 3 medals, which contribute to unlocking a random paint job every 5 to 6 medals you earn. So there is some replay incentive there. Though the shooting mechanics, while doing its best to keep things interesting, does get a little monotonous after a while. But thankfully the game does throw a curveball now and then, like having times where you are out of your mechs, which I guess is the only thing that would resemble Morph Ball mode in this. Though despite the fact that you are in mechs, it doesn't really feel empowering when the levels and enemies are scaled around that, especially when the space pirates get technology that make them big as well. So it feels like you're playing as a lumbering version of Samus from Metroid Prime with less movement ability most of the time. Not to mention it's a pretty linear experience overall. And the narrative, while fine, probably won't interest you that much until the end. There's no scan advisor for world building, but there are a few lower terminals to access, though it's not as extensive as the other Prime games, not even Hunters. So I won't blame anyone if they're not compelled enough to finish it even if they do try it. However, the game isn't that long, about 10 or so hours, and I would say the final boss is worth seeing. I would say spoilers, but since it's been 9 years, those of you watching probably already know or never cared to get the game in the first place. Because you actually fight Samus, who earlier went missing after discovering the Space Pirate's Doom's Eye thing, but got brainwashed and enlarged. So you fight her in her Morph Ball form. Kind of a cop-out and a blatant mechanic for a certain other thing this game has, but still pretty amusing that you do fight her like this. Plus, if every character gets a Metroid egg from a certain mission, there is a bonus scene after the credits showing someone breaking in and hatching a Metroid egg. Who could this possibly be? It's Silex. So yes, this makes Federation Force canonical with taking place before Metroid Prime 4. But even if you didn't play this for that scene, you probably already seen on YouTube by itself or in one of those Metroid Timeline Explained videos or something. And other than playing the levels again on hard for more medals and paint jobs, which I never bothered with, that's pretty much it. For the campaign at least. There is a separate multiplayer mode called Blast Ball, which was actually unveiled before the Federation Force announcement at the 2015 Nintendo World Championships. Except it wasn't revealed to be a part of Federation Force then, and the fact that you could download a demo of this separately for a while didn't help with the "this could have not been a Metroid Prime title" arguments. Anyway, this is a 3 vs 3 mode where you shoot a giant ball into your opponent's goal. It's essentially Rocket League with Federation Force shooting and power-ups. And despite only the 2 of us and there being no online friend lobbies in this mode for some reason, you can play with or against AI players. It's fun for a little while, and there are paint jobs and mods for this mode specifically to unlock and use, but there isn't much else to it and it died off even quicker than the main game, so it's pretty well forgotten at this point. So much so that there is a game mode in a recently announced Ratchet & Clank mobile game called Blast Ball. I guess Nintendo didn't bother to trademark it or doesn't care if a game mode also has that mode name years later. I think only weirdo Nintendo nerds like me would even bring up Federation Force Blast Ball over this. So overall, is Federation Force a bad game? Not really, but it's not a great game either. You can have some fun playing with a friend or 2 or even 3 if you somehow convince them, but considering the online functionality is now gone, it'll be even harder to get a group together to play it locally. It's a game that unfortunately hardly anyone even bothered with after first seeing it. You know what this actually is? It's what would happen if Metroid actually became a derivative first-person shooter like fans were fearing the first Metroid Prime would be back then. Though that's not the developer's fault. Next Level Games did okay all things considering. Their experience with the 3DS did help as this game runs alright with vibrant visuals that are well detailed for a 3DS game. Even if the mechs are pretty action figure-ish and the human-sized characters suffer from bobblehead syndrome. And the bomb screen is functional with using the map and aux ammo layouts. Also, despite the fact that Kenji Yamamoto, who has been involved with the music and sound of the series since Super Metroid, didn't work on this, the music is still fitting with the ambiance and action at appropriate times, just that it's not very memorable. And with the mixed reviews and bad, and I do mean bad, sales numbers, Federation Force is probably one of the most unwanted and least played Black Sheeps I've played. I would say if you do want this for Metroid Collection's sake, I won't stop you, but the game has gone up in price in recent years, probably because of how little is sold and marking it up as a so-called rare Metroid game nowadays. Though that's mostly for a North American copy, PAL is still pretty cheap. So if you still don't want to get this, you're honestly not missing too much other than a couple footnotes between Metroid Prime 3 and 4. And speaking of 4, I know some Prime fans just want the isolation and not deal with the quippy Federation character tutorializing you. I get it. But personally, I'm not gonna let something like that upset me after waiting for this game for so dang long. As long as it's like 3 with points of exploring on your own after, it likely won't be that bad. Besides, after how people reacted to Federation Force, it's not that big of a betrayal for the series in comparison. Well, I guess I'll have to wait and see how well those anti-hyperbolic remarks age once 4 is out. Anyway, that was Federation Force. Not a terrible game, just a game that came out at the wrong time with a premise that didn't win over many Metroid fans and quickly got abandoned. But thankfully, after this game, the Metroid series got a proper 3DS entry the following year with Samus Returns, a remake of Metroid 2 by Mercury Steam, who would also make the next mainline entry, Dread, a few years later. As for Next Level Games, thankfully they didn't close out the Federation Force bombing, and their next game, Luigi's Mansion 3, more than made up for those lacking sales. Part of me does wonder if Federation Force came out after Samus Returns, would it fare any better? But considering the Switch was already out by the time Samus Returns released, everyone pretty much did this with their 3DSs once they fully invested into a Switch.
I don't want to play with you anymore.
So I don't think it would really help. Also, that's pretty much the reason why Alpha Dream died, because Nintendo thought it was a good idea to release a 3DS Mario & Luigi remake in 2019, but I digress. Anyway, this is now a bit of a stretch as a short review. I guess I had a bit more to talk about for Federation Force than I thought, but still not as much as Other M, which, like I said, will be the main Metroid Black Sheep to cover, but not right away. As for the actual next full Black Sheep game review, let's just say it's something that essentially got Other M'd as well. So until then, I'll see you all in the next video.